In today's latest news, we talk player exits and expect there to be an exodus at the end of the season. Moving on, N'Golo Kante's contract offer is set to surprise you. We discover the full extent of Thiago Silva's injury. We talk Mateo Kovacic as Pep Guardiola wants to sign him for next season. And to end things, I want to talk Julian Alvarez and give my opinion as to why I think it's worth the gambling risk to try and sign him for us for next season. So tons of things to break down and discuss. If you're happy that we're not talking about Graham Potter, then make sure you guys hit that like button. Let's get 2k likes, and of course, share your thoughts and opinions below in the comment section as well. So without wasting any more time, let's start with the bad news and let's discuss Thiago Silva, because it has been reported today Thiago Silva is out for the next 6 weeks. He won't come back until April. And he does have knee ligament damage, which means that he is definitely missing the game versus Leeds and he won't be playing for us against Borussia Dortmund. Now, this is such bad news because irrespective of the fact that we've spent 140 million on signing 3 new centre-backs, Koulibaly, Fofana and Badiashile, Thiago Silva is very experienced age, is still by far our best defender, and he's going to be a massive loss. Now, this is an opportunity for the other defenders to step up right now and make things happen. In particular, I'm looking at Koulibaly. We're going to need this guy now in the Champions League. No mistakes against Borussia Dortmund. It's going to be a massive game in March. But I'm also feeling a little bit relieved because now that Wesley Fofana has got himself back into the team after coming back from injury, I've been really impressed by his performances. There was one moment against Spurs in the second half where, he had this composure, press resistance. He beat like 2 players by maintaining the ball down the right hand side of the field, and by doing that kickstarted an attack for us. Other defenders would just hoof that ball away. They would not have the composure, but Wesley Fofana has come in with some new mentality, some great confidence, and this is a massive opportunity for him to really cement himself now in this back line. So him and Badiashile, I'm excited to see them play in the Premier League. And of course, Fofana and Koulibaly against Dortmund is going to be a massive one, but I think Fofana is ready to step up and help us go through. So that's the first story out the way. Of course, good luck to Thiago Silva. Come back fitter and stronger. And now we move on to discussing N'Golo Kante. So right now, let's move on to the next story and let's discuss the future around Mateo Kovacic. Now, I think all of us have kind of known for a while now that there's been this belief that Kovacic will be leaving us at the end of the season. A lot of this feeling has come down to the fact that he has not been presented a new contract offer at this point in time. Now, before the season ends, who knows if things change and things become different, but currently he has 18 months left in his contract. His deal expires in 2024, and there's no concrete report suggesting that we are looking to give this guy a new contract. So normally, when players get to the final 2 years of their deal, this is like a calling card to interested parties to come in, make offers, and entice the player. And it does seem like Pep Guardiola may be doing this exact same thing. Now, we understand that Pep has been a massive fan of Kovacic for many, many years now. Before we signed him, City tried to sign him all those years back. I think at Inter Milan or Real Madrid, I can't remember at the top of my head. But ever since then, we've got some very interesting quotes. For example, Raheem Sterling, when he signed for us, he mentioned the fact that at Man City, a lot of the squad had big respect for Mateo Kovacic because he was incredibly hard to play against. Recently, in a 1-0 defeat in January against Man City at home, Pep Guardiola was extensively talking to Kovacic at the end of that game, and Kova put in a very good performance, which he tends to do against Man City. We've invested tons of money into midfield by signing great young prospects, by safeguarding the future by signing Andre Santos, who is set to return next summer, as well as signing Enzo Fernandez, and with Kante about to sign a new contract and talks that we could sign one more big midfield player, it is kind of suggesting that Kovacic is being phased out now because there's a certain way we want to play and we want to bring in those correct profiles. It's looking like Man City might have a midfield revamp of themselves with guys like Gundogan and Bernardo Silva potentially leaving as bowls, so Kovacic has Prem experience. Pep thinks he complements his style and his game, which I think he would do, because I think, for me, in my opinion, Kova's been a weird player for me. Like, since he's been with us, I think half the seasons I've liked him and been big fans of him, and for the other seasons I haven't been as impressed. Like, for example, when we first signed him under Sarri, he didn't suit playing as like a more natural number 8 that breaks into the books. But then the season after, he was really good for Frank Lampard. Tuchel, he did some great things which I really liked, and then there were other things which showed his limits in my personal opinion. And I do kind of feel like now that we've signed Enzo Fernandez, he brings greater goal contributions and better playmaking to this team, which kind of means that Kova is a little bit irrelevant at this point in time. And for me, this season hasn't helped Kova because he has been incredibly inconsistent, even though I accept that he's come back from suffering multiple injuries from last season. I think that kind of sums up Kova. He is a good player. I'm not going to disrespect him. I don't think he's world class, and I think that for every 5 good games he plays, there's like another 5 average ones and then another 3 bad games. And I do kind of feel like it's time for us to move on now and revamp this midfield. So if Man City want to do business, Kova's market value is around 40 million euros, so he would cost a pretty penny. So let's see what happens. So right now, let's move on to discussing King N'Golo Kante. So right now, let's move on to discussing King N'Golo Kante because he is very close now to signing this contract extension. And wow, this contract extension is incredibly surprising because it seems like Kante is set to sign a deal that takes him to 2026 with an option to extend by a further year, taking it to 2027. Now, a lot of people might be surprised by that because Kante has suffered injuries throughout multiple seasons. In my opinion, it's not always been the player's fault. A lot of times he has been rushed back way too soon, and I think maybe the fact that Kante is being offered such a long contract gives me quite a bit of confidence and faith. Number one, it gives me confidence in the fact that maybe Kante is accepting a longer contract by accepting lower wages. I mean, that works out for all parties. And number two, there's no way the club are giving a big contract for no reason unless medical data supports the fact that Kante is back and Kante can last for multiple seasons. Because I think a lot of times when people have been, in my opinion, very quick to rule Kante out, it's been based on this belief that, this injury he's picked up is going to be the injury to kind of kill his career. Let's make money from him now before he regresses. But I've always felt like, they haven't been severe enough. They haven't been like consecutive injuries to like the same area, for example. They've been different ones, and I do feel like Kante still has a lot more life in him. I mean, look in the modern game. We have Thiago Silva, who could be playing for us past 40 years old. I would not be surprised. Look at guys like Luka Modric at 37, 38, still one of the greatest midfield players in the world right now. And with sports science evolving and the fact that players' professionalism has gone to the next level, this contract tells me that Kante has at least 3 more years in his prime at the very top. And regardless, as he slowly gets phased out in the team, his quality, that's going to be helpful for a young team that is growing down the seasons and down the seasons. You need to have a bit of experience there that these guys can turn to and rely upon. And I do think it makes a lot of sense to give Kante a big deal. And it makes a lot of sense because we've spent even more time in allowing Kante to get back to full fitness. We aren't rushing him back for anything, which tells you everything you need to know about how much he is valued. So good news to hear. And now let's move on to discussing one of the big stories today, and that's around player exits. Now, Matt Law broke down this article, and I think, as we all expected, there's going to be a massive exodus at the end of the season. Now, let's break it down in terms of potential players who could be leaving. In one category, there are players whose contracts are set to be expiring and their contracts end in under 2 years. You're looking at players like Mason Mount, Ruben and Mateo Kovacic. You're looking at Kai Havertz, but his deal expires in 2025. But in my opinion, now, if you're trying to sign João Felix, if Nkunku's coming in, can you really have 3 attacking midfield players at the same time? I'm not too sure. Mount has a ton of interest from massive clubs in this country, and Ruben has interest from Milan after he really impressed them in his performances against Milan in the Champions League group stage. So they're players to watch out for. And of course, the final player to look out for is Edouard Mendy, who still hasn't agreed to signing a contract extension. So let's see what happens there. Of course, there are guarantees who are set to be leaving. They're Christian Pulisic, Hakim Ziyech, Aubameyang, and Azpilicueta as well too. And to end things, there are question marks around Conor Gallagher and Ben Chilwell as well too. Of course, with Conor, with the midfield players we're signing, the young talents plus the big boys as well too. If we don't use a midfield 3, that kind of undermines Conor Gallagher's effectiveness because he plays his best football playing the box-to-box role. So if it's not there, he could bring in a ton of money based on his value. It's the same thing as well too for Ben Chilwell. Now that Cucurella is in the team, and now that Ian Maatsen is becoming a very enticing option. He's having an incredible season on loan with Burnley. He's really improved his game like tenfolds. He's boosted his physicality, and he's one of the best like attacking fullbacks in the Championship. He could be a very interesting exciting option to turn to that could add a lot to our team in the final third. Is he worth potentially sacrificing Ben Chilwell, as he has interest from clubs like Man City, and you could get at least 30 to 40 million? These are the questions that we have to start thinking about now, because realistically we aren't getting Champions League football. We still need to sign players in the summer window, and we have to start to cultivate this squad now by cutting players from the list. So I think this story is like a reminder that, you know, still so much is happening around the club, and we haven't even finalised the squads. I mean, Matt Law's article details that Levi Cole is a player that is set to return for next season. And personally, I find it a little funny because I could have sworn the guy's played less than 10 games for Brighton. And already in those 10 games, it's like, okay, it's a guarantee that this guy has to return and sign for us. So, but with Koulibaly's future now being in doubt, especially in my opinion, with him possibly being the worst signing we've made, it could make sense for us to cash in on him and sell him and move him on. So that's the story around player exits. Share your thoughts and opinions. What players do you think have to be sold, and what players do you think have to be kept? Let us know. And of course, and right now, I want to end things by discussing Julian Alvarez. Now, you might be thinking, Nini, why are you talking about a player that doesn't have like a concrete link with us at this point in time? But the reason why I'm discussing this is that we know that we need to sign a striker for the next window. I'm going to release a separate video talking about that. I've been working on it for a few days. I think you guys will like it a lot. But the reason why I'm bringing up Julian Alvarez is the fact that recently it has been confirmed by Fabrizio Romano that Man City are hoping to offer him a contract extension by a further year, which would dramatically increase his existing 50k per week contract. Now, after that news, you might be thinking, okay, he's guaranteed and destined to stay at Man City, but there have been many reports now coming out over the past few weeks that Julian Alvarez is questioning his future at Man City. And of course, he is questioning that because of Erling Haaland. Unfortunately with Man City, when you have a player that good up front, you need to sign like a second striker, but realistically that second striker will barely ever get game time because you have such a phenomenal striker in Erling Haaland. Alvarez has just won the World Cup. He played a significant role in helping Argentina win that World Cup. He can't come back now and get inconsistent minutes. And I do think that the recent performance against Bournemouth, where that was only the 4th time this season he's played a full 90 minutes, which is kind of mad considering his quality and talent. You can kind of see why they played him against Bournemouth, where he did score, to try and entice him to stay. Alvarez wants to be one of the best strikers in the world. If he stagnates because of Erling Haaland, and based on the fact that throughout the season Pep has rarely used both these players together, and when they have played, Alvarez has played behind, on the right and on the left, there's been no consistency. What's the guarantee that this situation improves in the future? I don't really know. Alvarez can probably accept rotation minutes because he's acclimatizing to the Premier League, but now after winning the World Cup, things are completely different now, and it's up to Man City to assure him that he will be a star player for them. And in my opinion, I think that will be very hard, and who knows what type of plans Man City have in terms of revamping their squad for the next window. Regardless though, the fact that Man City are showing interest in Ben and showing interest in Kovacic, I feel like there is potential, in my opinion, to strike a deal and try to entice Alvarez to sign for us. I think Alvarez had a phenomenal relationship with Enzo Fernandez at River Plate, where Alvarez was getting massive numbers in terms of goals and assists, and Enzo Fernandez was one of the key fulcrums in that River Plate team under Gallardo that was letting this guy shine. We saw their relationship in this winter's World Cup. Like, they're the type of players that have that instinctual understanding. And I think the last time we saw something like that was between Diego Costa and Cesc Fabregas. For me, this type of like instinctual understanding is important when it comes down to breaking teams, because it lets you play a bit faster, it lets you play quicker. And a player like Alvarez, a guy that I've been a massive fan of since his exploits at River Plate, is a striker I feel could really complement our attack and potentially take it to the next level. He is a multifunctional style player, and I know a lot of times there's so many multifunctional players, but Alvarez really is that type of guy. He's comfortable dropping deeper, he's comfortable holding the ball, he's comfortable playing in tight spaces, he can exploit pace as well too. He's incredibly intelligent with his movement, and his anticipation. Like, he knows how to fool defenders and then create that space running behind. He's a great finisher with both feet. He's very strong when it comes to 1v1s. And the interesting thing about this Man City contract extension is that they kind of want a full answer by next month. They're not wasting any time. And you'd imagine that if Alvarez does not commit, they would look to sell him to reinvest that money into signing more players to help boost their team. So let's keep things real. This would be incredibly hard to get done. But I don't think it's impossible. And this board has shown me that nothing really is impossible for them. Enzo and Julian Alvarez have an incredible friendship, and hopefully, I'm hoping we get some links now in the next few weeks. And if that's the case, yeah, I need Enzo straight on that phone, hollering his amigo, saying, mi amor, you need to come to Stamford Bridge. We need to continue this bromance. You know what I mean? Like, I think Alvarez would be incredibly hard, but if we could sign him, if there was potential, he would be a very smart and astute guy that could really complement this team. But that's my opinion, only my personal opinion. Don't hold me to it, my friends. So on that note, I'm going to wrap things up, keep things moving. Thank you for watching. I'm Nini FC. This is BlueLionsTV. I'll catch you guys later with some more videos. Cool.